Okay, good boy. Okay, Milk, you good? You ready to go?
Good boy like that. Yeah. If you tell me
Okay,
good
Rab.
boy. Alright, go ahead. Ask yourself. Do it.
Okay, Rab, you ready to go, man? You good? All right, hold on. I want to get some water because I don't want to.
Did you reply, though?
Hey, everybody, I'm Rab. You couldn't wait for me to put my mic back on my
Listen,
chin.
you were trying to get your life together, and I don't wait for people to get their lives together. They gotta already have it together.
I've got my shit together.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Like, look, here I am. Rock you like a hurricane. I'm ready to go. Speaking of ready to go, I'm not just ready, I'm... All right, cool. We just won't pick that joke up.
I was really confused.
I'm like that gif of the old man throwing the dog in the ocean and the other old man just sees it coming and completely misses.
Try it again.
This is where our special guest, Andy, would have normally kicked in and said, I'm ready, Freddy. But everybody, welcome Andy to the second episode of the podcast. Andy, say hi.
Hello.
No, but like...
Hi, people. You're great.
You don't know any of them. They could be terrible.
I mean,
Well, it's their problem.
It's nice to give people the benefit of the doubt. That's an admirable.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, they are our listeners, so we should be, like, slightly more respectful. But there's, like, a handful of them we can, like, blatantly disrespect. You guys are cool. To everyone else, I'm really sorry.
One of you is probably a serial murderer, and that's not okay.
You really shouldn't murder cereal. You better knock that off. Cereal has done nothing.
What did General Mills and Kellogg's ever do to you?
General Mills is General Mills.
True. I like Lucky Charms, though.
You're disgusting.
That's me Lucky Charms. They're magically delicious. Milk, Rab, Andy, we've got our first guest. Andy, do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself? Why you're here?
All right. I'm Andy. I'm about to start my senior year of high school. I just finished my junior year, and I dabble in some art. I don't really post it anywhere because it makes me uncomfortable. But like, yeah, that's about it. I'm not exciting.
Only we
Andy's
have
small.
the privilege of seeing Andy's art.
Yeah, and it's a really special thing. Like, stick around. You never know. Maybe Andy might start sharing a little bit more. But the thing about him is that he's an incredible artist. Right now, I mean, I personally refer to him as an art hobbyist because he refuses to show anything, which is fine. But just like, he's here today because we honestly think that he's one of the more insightful artists, even though he's literally just 2 years old. But we have some fun stuff we want to talk about, and we think he's got some decent opinions, even though he has no idea what we're talking about today. Do you, Andy? And back to Milk.
Andy. Okay.
Oh, did he disconnect? We've only just begun.
That would suck. He's back. Alright, you said something.
Hey,
I left. Hey.
No, I was... Alright, so wait. Is your connection okay, Andy?
It's yes, yeah.
Did you just choose to be silent to mess with me, Andy?
No, I don't know. Discord being dumb. It's fine. They're all good. My internet's fine. It's good.
Here's what's gonna happen. We're not gonna send you your paycheck if you don't respond on time. So get your shit together.
Who's paying Andy? Are you doing it? Because I'm not doing it. You really thought?
The fear in your eye, in your fucking voice. Who? What? Who's paying Andy?
Oh God,
Andy's also dying, and that's why we decided to have him on as our first guest. You know, before the memorandum and the whole moratorium on it talking about him. What the hell? I was reaching for
just
some.
follow my funeral.
I can't wait to play bass boosted things at your funeral.
I'm so happy. All right, but to get back to what I was saying before Andy faded off into the void, Andy, you don't really know what we're going to be talking about today, right?
No.
All right, but
I
I assume you listen. I know. It's crazy. I assumed you listened to our first podcast, so you kind of know what we're all about here.
Right. Yeah. Oh, really?
We have one fan. All right.
Andy doesn't even come to my live streams.
That makes me so happy because I don't either. But anyway.
Wow, fuck off.
Shut up. All right, so Milk.
Yes.
As is tradition that I am starting today. Let's talk about where we've been because the first podcast was posted over a month ago?
Yeah. It's been
so Milk, what took you so long? What's going on, man?
What the fuck? Anyway.
You hold yourself accountable.
I'm currently a student in university, right? And I wanted to focus on the final days of my semester because, tests, my own crippling health causing me to lose days when I had flawless attendance, so that sucked ass. But hey, that being aside, not only was I trying to finish up the semester, but I recently opened my commissions back up, so that swamped my time too. And essentially, as the one editor at the moment, because I haven't taught Rab anything yet, I have been unable to edit anything and unable to record anything with my good old
Have you ever been so casually thrown under the bus?
No one can ever do that as casually as I can. But yeah, that's where I've been.
Actually... Yeah, no, funny thing about that is that, right now, because I lack the equipment and the time, we haven't really had more than one editor working on things so far. And, since Milk just admitted that he's responsible for editing, anything that sounds shitty about this podcast from the first one to now is his fault. And you guys are right in getting mad about that and just direct all complaints to him. Yeah.
But you know what else is a fault? Not being involved at all.
Hey,
this has been a PSA.
I am. What's the name of that country that is always neutral in everything?
Sweden.
Switzerland.
Whoa.
Right.
Somebody's wrong here.
Right? And you know
Switzerland.
What? We're not big enough that anyone's going to correct us yet, so we can just all be wrong. I'm Russia.
No, God.
Totally neutral.
I can't believe you're going to get us killed, Rab.
Totally neutral. But yeah, so that aside, because we love saying that phrase, that is, for me, the last month, since I'm the other half of the podcast, I might as well explain myself too. Though I am 500 years of age, am also a student in college. I am wrapping up what has been the single most annoying semester for me since the last one, which was also the single most annoying semester for me. And hey, guess what? We all got good grades. Isn't that right, Milk?
Yeah, boy.
Yeah. Only one who's gonna clap. Yeah.
Let's go, Andy.
Let's all keep clapping out of sync. So yeah, no, it was really worth it. We all decided to focus, and even though I was literally dropped from one of my classes, got back into that same class, got an A, and just if that doesn't speak to how stressful my semester has been without explaining every single thing, just know I've had a pretty rough and interesting semester, but got through it, and we've been talking about this podcast the entire time. Again, we really want to keep this thing going. We really want to get something started, so it's it was really rough to be away from it so long because, all right, I'll be honest, it might sound self-centered, but I listened to the first episode maybe 15 or 25 times.
Oh, Rab!
It's really fun. Once you make something and you put it out there, it's just really fun to know that it exists. We got a decent amount of feedback from the people that we know. We're not sitting in the thousands or even the hundreds, but it's just really nice to have gotten anybody to listen at all.
About when I released my first speed paint as an artist, I used to look at speed paints and admire them so much. It was back before I had my own laptop, and the desktop at our home was shit, so I couldn't do any type of recording or editing on there. So I would watch speed paints and I'd be like, man, I'd really love to do something like this, show off my process to my friends and family. And even now, as embarrassing as it is, whenever I make a speed paint, one of the first things I do is post it to Facebook. I don't use Facebook other than to brag to my family that I am an artist.
Everybody, look, I'm an artist.
But yeah, and so it felt, when I made my first speed paint, it's so shitty now, looking at it between now and my most recent one, But when I made my first speed paint, I was like so proud of it, and all I did was like sit down all day and watch it. And I'll admit to this too. Whenever I make a new speed paint, I'll spend like a good hour watching it on repeat.
That's so good. Like, I don't feel as ashamed of that as I thought I would. Like, I really like looking at the thing we did because it just feels really nice to know that it happened. And
we did
and I mean, exactly. And I mean, that's not the only stuff that we got accomplished in the last like month or so. On top of getting college semesters wrapped up, we've all recently interviewed and looked into tons of jobs. Milk actually got one. And while, that might mean that things get a little bit tighter, it also means that we'll have paychecks in order to buy more shit to do the podcast.
All right, let me tell you how I fucked myself over with Target, though.
By all means, please.
Oh my god.
So, my availability hours, I put in that I was available every day of the week from opening to closing.
Oh, man. Listen,
Well, I mean, no, this is... I already know that's kind of not an okay idea.
This is good. This is good. You're just going to have to consolidate your classes into like 2 or 3 days.
Basically, I fucked myself over.
Nice. I feel you.
Milk wants to run themselves into the ground. It's fine.
I'll die.
Now, all this stuff has growing pains. Like, it's really, like, for Milk, this is Milk's first, like, big on-the-books job. I mean, Milk has been a security guard for the president. Milk has been a spy for, American international relations. Milk's been around the block. Milk has sold crack. But now this is his first, like, on the books, legal, no one has to die at a day job. And we're really happy about it.
Oh, I can't forget that I was a scout for about a decade, too. So, yeah.
Gosh darn scout.
I know how to start forest fires.
Yeah.
I mean, you can start forest fires.
Only you. Damn it, Smokey. Go home. But yeah, that's the other thing that's been going on. Milk has personally been growing a ton more artwork. I mean, you guys follow his channel a bunch. I'm sure you can see tons of stuff. Anybody listening is a fan of Milk by default because this is his channel. Or at least we're coming from his channel. Another really cool announcement. This will be the first episode that we launch on the new channel, specifically for the combined content of Milk and I.
Alright, so
may he rest in peace.
We've gotten pretty sidetracked between the personal life stories and sharing how we doing. You guys can let us know in the comments how you've been since the last podcast. What you've been going with your art, what you've been doing in life. Some progress you've been making. That'd be interesting to read. Yeah, fam.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, school ended for a lot of people. Summer began. The season's nigh. The sun is burning as many people as possible. It's a good time to discuss all that stuff before we're swallowed by the sun. I'm ready.
Yes. It's a bit late for that. I mean, the sun's here. I go to bed at 5 a.m. I wake up at 2 p.m. And then I draw. Yep. And I just draw. I've been thinking about, it's been sucking me. I've been thinking about opening up another Undertale blog just because I miss the waves of the fandom art, and I still really like Undertale.
Well, that being our activity and some of our ambitions, hey Andy, in the last couple of weeks, like, what have you been up to, art-wise, personally? Anything you feel like sharing?
Recently, I've been experimenting with drawing fire, and using more of effects and stuff like that on my art.
Oh. Okay.
I'm trying to get around on drawing specific OCs instead of just drawing one OC and then leaving them alone for 70 years and never touching them.
Oh yeah, that's why you're banned from OC chat.
Jesus, yeah, really.
Don't name them.
Because just a quick note about Andy. Andy, it will make an awesome character designer one day. I really hate that we can't exactly show you what he's got to offer. I'm gonna see if I can convince him to give me like 3 pieces of art just to share with you guys. We'll talk about it later. Don't hold your breath, might not happen. But Andy is an amazing character designer. But he also doesn't have too many consistent OCs. Please, Andy, go on. Explain this problem.
Because I like designing things more than getting in depth with their stories and personalities and stuff like that. Because designing things is the fun part. I guess designing, like, thinking of personality stuff like that can be fun, but it's not my style.
Yeah, I can relate to that sentiment. It's why I also have like 500 OCs. Like, I design OCs, and like Andy, he's more like really into the fantasy and adventure realm. Like that's why his character designs, they vary a lot, and they're just all generally amazing and detailed and well thought out.
Yeah.
And whereas me, I like the more domestic kind of stuff, down to earth. So like my a lot of my character designs will end up being very normal looking, your typical uni student or a cute child with a single parent, stuff like that. And that's why I specifically have gotten really into storytelling as well, because if you're gonna make so many, I'm quote unquote basic. If you're gonna make so many, basic domestic characters, stuff like that, you have to have some story aspect to make them interesting. But the thing about Andy is that he doesn't really need story, because, to be honest, his character designs can tell a story of their own. They're so detailed and so different and unique. So I think that might be like one of the main differences, because I definitely understand that character design sentiment a lot.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I wanted Andy here, because again, like, as a character designer, I completely admire him. He might be 3 years old, but I don't think that age gaps anyone out from being, an inspiration. And just, yeah, man, that's cool, Andy. So you're practicing with new effects, you're practicing on working on consistent characters?
Yeah.
Anybody in particular that you've been really like getting into in
Yeah.
DCs?
Care to make that into an actual conversation?
The dog guy that I had that I've been enjoying recently doing stuff. Basically, from what I've been thinking of recently, there a guy who was tricked by a witch into doing a certain thing, and if he did that certain thing, then she would give him what he always wanted. However, she tricked him and ended up fusing him with the fire elemental, and here we are.
Oh.
Ooh.
That's not what I expected to hear, but that's actually pretty cool. Like,
Story.
and that's the kind of stuff, yeah, that's the kind of stuff Andy comes up with all the time, and like that kind of stuff comes off in his characters so well. And again, Andy, I really hope you'll let me show the people a thing or two. But that being said, speaking of art, today's topic, as we've come to understand, as we've discussed and followed things, and we might be a little bit late to this particular hype fandom. I don't know if it's as popular anymore, but we want to talk about trends today in our podcast. Milk, you want to kind of lead into that one?
Yeah. Art trends.
Oh, yeah.
So, a couple weeks back, Bendy and the Ink Machine came out, and I remember I followed Jack's episode, Jack on YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw his playthrough, and it wasn't a particularly interesting game to me. Like, I got about 4 or 5 minutes in, I was like, not up my alley. So I ended up, leaving relatively early during that video. And there was nothing on Bendy and the Ink Machine for like weeks. And then suddenly I saw it everywhere. I saw everybody was drawing it everywhere. I saw the rubber hose style everywhere, and I was like, whoa, that blew up unexpectedly. Because I really wasn't expecting it to. So one of the things I noticed with something like that kind of game, is that when something like that comes out, I notice a lot of younger people tend to get really into it and not copy the style per se, but they like to draw in that style, and you see it everywhere. And it's really interesting how they can kind of latch on to something like that and spread it. And Rab mentioned to me the history of rubber hose, which made it even more interesting to me, because I don't think a lot of them may know the history of rubber hose.
Exactly, and that's where I wanted to jump in, because what I always find fun about these trends is that, back when I was a kid, we didn't really know who else was into the stuff that we were into. When I was watching Mark Kistler's The Imagination Station, I don't think I knew a single other kid who was learning to draw from that show. I don't think there were any other kids drawing characters from their favorite cartoons. I didn't know them. But now, a game comes out, community immediately flourishes out of nowhere. Everybody's drawing the same thing. They're sharing all this information. They're having fun. Again, I think last podcast, or in a podcast that we probably haven't posted yet, we talked about Five Nights at Freddy's. And I mean, that's a prime example. Five Nights at Freddy's, Undertale. What was that other one with the rainbow-horned children?
Homestuck. Why did I forget
Homestuck. I have no idea. Like I didn't even know what it was. But like Homestuck, you have all these things with all these big, deeper references, and I want to use Five Nights at Freddy's because you have, the old animatronic things that like really don't exist in this day and age. When I was a kid, I remember going to Chuck E. Cheese and seeing those air-powered, and a lot of people don't even know that they were air-powered animatronic robots that you could hear hissing and screeching and blinking, and that's what made them scary to me as a kid. Yeah, they were really fucking frightening. And like to see a lot of games have come out in the same vein, and again I mentioned Five Nights at Freddy's because it's really relevant here, because Bendy and the Ink Machine kind of takes a nod from it in terms of something cute in a horror game. And as soon as I saw that they were referencing the rubber hose style but not really talking about it directly, I was a little upset. And again, this is because I'm an old, jaded art bastard, but I was a little upset because it didn't seem like anybody was referencing the significance of rubber hose style. And, we have Andy here today. I wanted to ask, Andy, do you know some of the origins behind the rubber hose style?
No, actually, I don't.
I can't wait.
All right, so this is incredible. So I told Milk about this, and we really thought it'd make great conversation because rubber hose in particular has a special place in my heart. Like, I think a lot of people, doesn't really matter how old you are, I think everybody here knows Steamboat Willie.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Really? I didn't fucking know Steamboat Willie.
Okay, it's Mickey.
Wait, never mind. I've lied to you.
No, it's literally what, the first cartoon or the first piece of animated cartooning that Mickey Mouse was ever featured in, and like that was in the rubber hose style. And one of the big things about rubber hose that I think a lot of people don't know is that it was literally the thing that spawned animation, in a sense. Like before this, it was just comic artists, a bunch of people. And I'm going to be vague because, to be honest, I don't have all the details. I just have, a very general idea of what happened. Back when you had a bunch of comic artists, like the daily comic strips and the newspapers and things like that, they would constantly draw their characters over and over again in still frames and in these funny comics, which I'm sure if you went online you can find. And then suddenly, bam, guess what? We can animate. Now, the big thing about rubber hose animation is that when I say that it was the beginning or pioneered animation, it's because literally all of these comic artists who were confined to just drawing simple frames to get across a joke or a particular bit in any comic were suddenly given free rein to actually make those comics move. These characters had never been rendered in motion ever before. And so imagine if you, never having the animated medium before, are suddenly given the entire thing. Like, okay, one of the key pieces, one of the iconic things in terms of rubber hose style is the movement, right? I think everybody can sort of like identify that right away. The way they all kind of bounce, stretch. You guys have seen that kind of stuff before?
Yeah.
Yeah, and don't they like personify not alive objects, like a building or something?
Yeah.
And the sun?
Personification, like things like the sun bouncing in the sky, buildings wiggling in the wind.
They anthropomorphize all sorts of inanimate objects, yeah. But like that's not necessarily the core of why it was the way it was. You see, nobody had ever animated before, not in that sense. So you had people that were really testing the boundaries of what motion was and what it could be like. So you had all these characters whose limbs could move independently around their bodies without detaching. Heads that would move from side to side, up and down a torso without any assistance. Their torsos would ride up and down their legs. They would bounce all the time like they were starting up a fighting game animation. They would just stand there constantly bouncing, if you can imagine. And it's like all these artists were like, okay, what can I do next? What can this character do? How wacky can I make it? How goofy is this going to go? They really got a chance to push the limits, and I feel like people haven't even bothered to look that stuff up. Like, I mean, it was way back in the 1920s, so it's kind of fair that not too many people know about it. I'm not even from that generation. I'm not that old.
I wasn't familiar with
but
it
like,
either. Rab had to
yeah, you're older.
to me.
Yeah, but I'm older. Shut up. Me make art.
Sometimes I still wonder how Rab survived the meteor.
It's tough, but when you think about how you had to stand in front of all those dinosaurs to survive, you kind of feel bad, but they were slower than me. That's not the point.
Jackass.
But that's not the point. Like, the fact that these artists were now able to work in 3 dimensions and they didn't have to compromise with their character detail and their character movement, they could do this really alive and complex motion and animation. And it's just like, while a lot of different companies were sensitive to all these changes, this was really just the beginning. It had just started, it had just blown up and grown, and nobody could really tell them what to do because they were the ones who started it. And so to see Bendy and the Ink Machine sort of pop up and spawn all these new fandoms and drawings, and then to see that the game itself doesn't really utilize the sort of the iconic rubber hose feel, I felt personally kind of disrespected. But the art that's come of it has been really incredible. Andy himself actually runs a blog with some rubber hose artwork. Is that right?
Yes. Speaking of which, I'm actually on a Discord server, which is all about Bendy and the Ink Machine.
Ooh, what's that
I've
like?
met so many artists who have Bendy blogs, and they're really good artists.
What's it like?
All right.
Do any of them happen to know like the history of rubber hose or try dabbling in animating with it?
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting.
Milk, you know Pip, right?
Yeah. Let me not show my personal bias. I'm cool. Yeah,
Well, no,
I
that's
know
cool.
Pip.
We'll
They have
let
a
Pip
Bendy
know
blog.
that. Yeah, we'll let Pip know that we mentioned them, and hey, maybe it'll serve as a good example for some of this Bendy stuff we're talking about. Because personally, I thought the game would have been a lot more haunting if the characters moved like traditional rubber hose characters. Imagine stalking down the hallway, this slowly ominous bouncing figure whose head could ride along his arm
Oh,
to
jeez.
veer around corners.
Me 3.
Where they rise up out of blots of ink and they sort of like bounce everywhere, and you try to hit them and their torsos move out of the way. They're constantly moving in and out of 2-dimensional spaces. Like, I really felt like there was missed potential. And to be honest, I haven't seen the entire game, so I don't know for sure if elements like that are
The game's
involved.
not finished yet, so
Oh, is
we
that
may
so?
see some of
Okay.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, who
it's
knows?
3
Maybe
parts.
they'll
The
add some
third
stuff
part's
like
not
that.
out yet.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. See, I didn't know that. But yeah, actually, now that I've spoken about the origin of that stuff, I'd really like to know what it is that you guys liked about it, because you hadn't seen any of this stuff yet. But that being said, you guys, before you knew all this stuff that I told you about, what did you like about, the Bendy and the Ink Machine art aesthetic and the rubber hose style?
Do you mean me, or
Who's going
are you
first?
asking the
Milk,
audience?
you go
Well,
first.
You guys, whoever wants to go first.
I'll be incredibly honest. I wasn't all that interested in it or the art style itself. Like, I grew
Oh.
up liking Popeye and Betty Boop, all that stuff. But as an artist, personally, I wasn't interested in drawing it until, Rab came in. I have a Discord server. He came in one day and was like, hey, I'd like to see some of you guys try the rubber hose style. And Andy and another friend of ours was very responsive to that request, and they did it, but, I had 0% interest. So once me and Rab had ended up having that conversation, suddenly I was like, oh man, I really want to try it, because just the fluidity and learning the history of something like that had instilled so much sudden interest in me. So that's why I was kind of thinking about how these artists nowadays, younger artists, hey, it's cool, you want to try something out, go do you. But I was also wondering, how people can do something and not really know too much about the history of it, because then suddenly it became so much more interesting to me, and I was more compelled to try it once I knew what it was all about.
Yeah. And I mean, I was really happy about that, because Milk is like a sponge. As soon as you start telling Milk the origins of something and he finds it interesting, Milk dives in head first. And so seeing his interest really motivated me to want to talk about it more, hence this portion of the podcast. What about you, Andy? You were into it way before I mentioned it, way before Milk was even talking about it. As you said, you're part of the whole server.
Yeah, what I really like about the rubber hose style is that you can draw any, because it's not normal human anatomy. You can do whatever you want with it, and it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's really great and interesting to experiment with. If you want to experiment with more things, if that's what you do as an artist. Great.
Yeah, it's really good for warming up, I learned. So, I've been trying really hard lately to be more fluid with my art movement, so just
Right.
great.
Yeah, and see, that's another thing. When you think about stuff like that, fluid art movement, fluid animation, fluid characters, fun anatomy, I am, really happy to talk about another game that's coming out that uses the rubber hose style, I think, incredibly effectively. You guys might have heard of it. Cuphead, Don't Deal with the Devil.
Oh, never heard of it.
Oh, so basically, I mean, you might have seen it around. It's literally 2 cups.
I've seen it around.
Exactly. Andy would know. It's
People are
kind of like a...
People are already making blogs for it already.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's really incredible. You know what,
That is
Milk? If this is the
fast.
first time you're hearing about it. All right, so you guys are purely audio listeners because we don't really post anything in terms of video, but I'm going to send Milk a link, and I'm going to get his opinion on it. You guys will be hearing it for the first time here
I'm scared.
on the podcast.
Shaking.
So I linked it in the chat. Milk, that is Cuphead.
This guy sent me a Google link. Oh
It's a
my
ton
God.
of stuff. Just hit it.
Every part of this terrifies me.
Right. But as soon as you see it in motion, it's some of the best stuff I've seen. These are all hand-drawn animations. These are all... Nothing is procedurally generated. All the motion is drawn out by hand.
I just saw something
And-
with Bendy versus Cuphead. It's so fast.
Bendy is amazing in terms of what it looked like and what I thought it could be, but Cuphead, don't deal with the devil.
They're literally
And again,
fighting.
Okay, cool. But I implore everyone to take a look. Yeah, no.
And then Andy became fucking T-Pain.
Remember, everyone, forgive us. This is a very amateur recording setup. We're all using laptop microphones and headphone microphones. We apologize in advance again. Well, actually, this is way later, so we apologize pretty late. But yeah, like, again, the game is called Cuphead, Don't Deal with the Devil. Look it up if you get the chance. But it is a really great example of taking full advantage of an entire era that spawned animation and character design. And some of this stuff is just absolutely amazing. Have a look. I highly recommend it.
I'm looking at it right now, and it's really good.
It's fantastic. And, you know, all of this talk about art actually has me thinking about some of the stuff Milk has been up to lately. Milk, you have very recently come away from the Undertale fandom in a big way.
I'm going back, and it sucks. But that aside, yeah, I recently converted my fandom Undertale blog, which I was very happy to have. I still miss it upstairs, into a personal story blog for a comic that I have up and coming, that I've thumbed pages for, that I have the story entirely planned out. I just have to get off my ass for it. But essentially,
Nice.
while I was in the Undertale fandom, I made a lot of Undertale OCs based off of Frisk and Kara, and having left the fandom, I didn't want to suddenly lose all these characters that I had grown so attached to, especially the 2 that were attached to that blog that I was really fond of. So I ended up writing them all into an original comic series, converting them into OCs after, like, you know, tweaking designs and stuff. There's so many Bob cuts. I love Bob cuts so much, but that aside. And I've received immense support over it. I was honestly expecting, like, the Undertale fandom can be so specific and hard-ass about what they want at times. So I was expecting my follower count to drop by, like, half once I announced, hey, I'm turning this into an OC comic blog. But the support, the amount of support I received and the comments I got from friends that I made in the fandom was, like, amazing. And I was, like, so touched that, like, almost brought me to tears. And so I can't wait to get that started, you know, and I can't wait to show everybody what I've made, because I'm so attached to my characters and so attached to my story. But that's the thing that's happening.
Yeah, and then, like, some of the art that you've been throwing out there lately, whether it be the new OCs that you've been producing, the new sketches, or even just the new Magical Girls, which, by the way, oh my god, it's good stuff. The fact that you've taken up new commissions again, you've thrown out adopts again, and I mean, we talk about this stuff because we're still, you know, transitioning over from Milk's channel into this new channel, and we love Milk's original fans, and we want to keep them abreast of what's going on, of course.
But can we talk about Rab, though, slowly getting back into his art, because that's...
Yes, I am slowly climbing back into my chest cavity.
Your chest
and getting into my heart, Milk. Good.
Don't.
Right back into my heart. Like, no, okay, so recently, though I've not posted much in many places, I think I posted to, like, Twitter. Because that's kind of like my default place to post things nowadays. But
I never log into Twitter.
Yeah, I know. None of us ever really sees anybody else's artwork. It's just kind of like that. We're really, really great friends. But I've started trying to get back into it. I doodle a bunch on my cell phone with my thumb, and the art that comes out is genuinely terrible.
It's
but
really not. It's pretty good. Like, you need to get a stylus. I'll get you a stylus.
it's
Yeah.
pretty shit. But these guys seem to like it, so I keep doing
You
it.
know, I'm gonna fight
And
this
so let's fucking go.
guy. 6 foot
That said-
nothing.
Yeah. But no, like it's actually been really cathartic. Like I've never really not loved drawing, but like I said in the first podcast, and I love constantly referencing the first podcast, like it was 7 years ago. But I talked about how I'd been out of art for like 3 years. I've been really inconsistent. I would draw something once in a blue moon, and now I've kind of done a little bit more every month. Like I've done maybe 4 or 5 things every month. They're small doodles, nothing really big, but it's been really, really great to get back into it. And I love the fact that starting this podcast kind of really helped me invigorate my passion. The way that some of you guys responded, not just in the comments, we've had people come to our personal servers, we've had our personal friends speak to us about it. I've had friends of mine in my personal life and Milk vis-a-vis their personal life. Andy, who watched it, gave us some positive feedback, which was surprising because Andy's generally the worst person to ask for criticism because he will tear you in half.
He really will.
But he really will.
I will fight Andy one of these days.
And just because Andy has nothing to say about that, it must be true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll fuck
like-
you up. It's okay.
I'll fuck you up. It's good, man. You already know. But yeah, like I really like that this podcast has given me a lot of reasons to try. And people like Andy, who I count as like a personal idol, have been really inspiring when it comes back to getting into art. So Andy, I would like to personally thank you. 1, for coming here as a guest, and 2, for being the amazing artist that you are, because it's been really helpful.
Aw. Thank you, and you're welcome.
Thank you.
I feel like
Thank
he
you,
was
and
gonna
you're
say
welcome.
something to invalidate
Yeah.
all of that, and then he backtracked. Let me tell
I was
you
worried
guys
for a
something.
second.
The Andy that you're hearing right now is actually Andy, but there's another side of him. There's a side that I think about fighting in my dreams on a regular
Okay, he can never-
basis.
He can never be a guest again. No.
No, I love him. I love Andy to death.
Exposed.
Everybody calls him out as my personal bias, and like, you know what? They wouldn't be wrong. He's so great.
Yep. Well, that being said, now that we've all patted each other on the back for being amazing, because we
I'll
are and
fuck
aren't.
you up.
Oh boy.
Be our friend.
I'm really loving. Yeah. Like one thing that we want to do is, and I've talked about it before with Milk, and we haven't really been ready to kind of throw it out there until we had artists lined up and until I had an idea of how I wanted to advertise them. But I feel like there just really isn't a visual, sort of more verbal market for commission-based work. Like it's mostly just post online, DeviantArt, Tumblr, Twitter, Fur Affinity, whatever. I mean, Milk knows the struggle.
Ha! Ha! I sure do. I don't even go on Fur Affinity. Heads up, the
Yeah.
furry community, I've heard some great stuff about customers in the furry community. Go in there if you want to make money.
You better learn how to draw a dog. That's what people want from you.
Oh my gosh. I like how we're going to simultaneously praise and shame the fur community in the same breath.
I did no sort of
But,
shaming.
No, Andy jumped in and did it for you, but that's not the point. But no, like if you're on Tumblr, you'll probably have seen the post. People on Fur Affinity, artists who are in the furry community, are generally really, really grateful for artwork, and they usually treat their patrons very well. And one thing we want to do for them and any other artist, because it's not just specifically for any one group of artists, it's mostly just going to be people that we know. And then, hey, if we ever become anything popular or even remotely interesting, we'd love to have you guys say, hey, I've got commissions. Would you mind doing a video for this? And I will personally do one for you, like you might have just heard. If it sucked, feel free to let me know, because then I will stop right away and quit my job and bury myself in a hole. It's good times. But yeah, like we like the idea of promoting our friends and other artists. Like we might totally have biases, but we'll let you know. But yeah, what do you guys think about this? You know, love it, hate it. You know, like, comment, subscribe, favorite, share, post to Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, MySpace, YouTube, Zynga, any other.
Zynga.
I might be pronouncing it wrong. It's some old social media platform. You kids wouldn't know. Don't look it up. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong about the name of
Neopets.
Oh,
Yo, post it to your
didn't they shut
Neopets
down
page.
Neopets?
it. No. Yes?
Really?
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Or was that Webkins?
I'm pretty sure it was Club
Wizard
Penguin.
101.
No. I fucking know about Club Penguin. We don't talk about that. I'm still upset. So I'm pretty sure it
Yeah,
was
we won't-
Neopets.
Yeah. Let's not turn this wonderful art podcast of innocence into something vile by talking about Club Penguin.
I don't know who you think you are. But Club Penguin is the pinnacle of social
All right, Milk.
networking.
So just
Wizard
like you
101
casually
was better.
just like you casually threw me on the bus, under the bus, I'm going to bluntly chuck you in front of a truck. You and your pretending to be a penguin child with pigtails, getting adopted by other penguins
Oh my god! That's so
in Club Penguin.
bad. That's so bad without context. That's a story
yeah,
that
and-
you tell. I have to tell that
Hey,
story with Zan.
No,
I can't.
maybe some other day, when we can have
No.
Zan as a guest,
Fuck you.
we can totally explain it.
It was
But when
part
you
of
talk
Club
about how
Penguin
great-
culture.
Sure, yeah, Club Penguin culture. And when you get a chance to explain that, you will. But for now, we're gonna leave that as our last word
No.
in terms of that, because Club Penguin is vile.
Fuck
But Milk will
you.
justify that. Milk will justify that later. Andy,
Hmm?
I know this wasn't the sprawling bit of conversation you were probably expecting, but we'd like to thank you for coming on. Milk, do you have any last words?
Not words, but thanks.
Yeah.
Andy, you got anything you want to say in closing?
Nah, but I just hope that people enjoy themselves. You're all great, and if whoever tells you otherwise, you hit me up, and I'll
What do you
I'll
do?
send them 70 viruses.
No, because if you send me
There you
70
go, everybody.
viruses, I'm showing up on your doorstep, Andy, and we're fucking scrapping.
There you go, everybody. Tell anybody who bullied you that Andy's coming with a copy of You're Welcome, But I Want to Die.
No, God.
No, I'm coming with that with that 70 viruses that I once had on my own phone.
How did you
Jesus.
get on your phone, Andy?
I don't want to talk about it.
With that said, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We hope to see you again in the next one, which hopefully won't be so far off.
Yeah.
And yeah, boys, later.
Bye.
Boys.